Interact's position budgeting system is very comprehensive and allows you to manage both the position budget as well as the financial budget for your organization, and manage the grades and steps that make up the salary structure. You control whether or not the entire organization will be hiring against the position budget. This means whether you will have position budgeting control or whether you are going to allow people to issue requisitions regardless of whether there is an approved budget available for that. What is unique about 2Interact is that you can define for each organization unit separately whether you want your hiring to be controlled by a position budget. What we're looking at here is the Administration Services Unit definition, and you'll notice here at the bottom that the hiring is controlled by a position budget. In other organization units, this may not be the case. Position budgeting also means that we can define our own grades and steps. So using the grades and steps, you can define a salary structure that is driven by any number of grades or steps which are in fact user-defined. On top of that, you can have additional dimensions added which will give you a job grade step matrix. This means that the grade and step values can differ based on the job title, education level, and the number of years of experience. Now, in addition to this, you can define the grades and compensation entitlements in a matrix, which will let you define for each employee group or for a combination of employee groups, and based on the job category, you can define for each grade what would be the entitled range for specific compensations. For example, in this organization, there is a meal allowance which is provided for, but there is a minimum and maximum, which is dependent on the grade of the employee. The same thing applies to the family allowance and many other elements. So all compensation elements can have their own minimum and maximum range, which will allow you to do your budgeting properly. Job classification is also connected with grades. You can see here that there's a minimum and maximum grade for this particular job of training officer, and there's a minimum and maximum salary associated with that. We can get a mid-salary, and we can use this mid-salary as the basis for budgeting, and it allows us to easily and quickly add additional components to come out with a total budget per FTE. In this case, it's a monthly budget based on the setup that we've done. We can take this one step further. Instead of using a grade step classification of our jobs, we can also use a Hay classification, in which case you would be able to measure and evaluate your jobs based on the Hay factors of accountability, problem solving, and know-how. You can also add the working conditions factor here, or you could add other factors. Each factor will have specific points associated with it which will give you a proper score in the end. Here's an example of how we obtain the correct scores in our job evaluation, which will provide us with a grand total of Hay points, which then gives us the correct minimum and maximum salary range. You can make a market exception which will provide you with a different minimum and maximum salary, and you can validate the employee's salary against the agreed salary ranges and alert you if an employee is out of range. But enough about financial budgeting and salary ranges. Let's go back and look at the position budgets and how we manage that. First of all, we will be able to receive the position budget worksheets from all the units, all the departments or companies which we have defined in the system. Based on those approved budgets, we will start issuing position slots, and those position slots will then be used when requisitions are issued against them. Positions can be released automatically based on termination or promotion of an employee, but can also be released manually if there is an exceptional situation. You can generate a starting position budget. You can roll it over to the next year, and you can get all your summary reports. So what we've done here is we've logged in as Administration Services, and we are going to issue a position budget worksheet request using the organization unit's self-service. I can put in my position budget request, or I can simply add any job titles and put in the exact number of positions that I am requesting for them. And I could enter the grade that we would like them to be in. We can then add in the estimated filing date of those positions and further information. Once we've put in this request, it will be sent for review based on the workflow that is defined. The HR department will receive all the different position budget worksheets that have been sent, and they can verify, even make changes, and finally approve the request. If the budget has been approved, then the requisitions can be issued against this budget. That would take us into recruitment, which we are not doing right now. However, we would like to take a look at the position slots themselves, because now the appropriate user in HR will be able to generate new position slots. Each position slot can be defined with many details. And you'll notice that in the year 2013, we only have job titles available, for which we can create slots because those are the only ones with an approved budget. When we add this position slot number 124, we will be able to see and modify the budget for allowances, benefits, bonuses, commissions, and so on for this particular position. Thanks to the version control, if I am updating my budget, the system will check with me if the budget that I updated right now is a correction of the same version, or this would be a new budget altogether. Based on the workflow, somebody will need to approve this new position that's been created, and then requisitions can be issued against it. Apart from that, we can obviously release the position, and we can generate a new starting position budget. For example, we can generate the starting budget for the admin services, or we could simply roll over a position budget to the next year. Budgeting is one of the most difficult tasks because it involves so many people, and typically a lot of spreadsheets are sent back and forth, which get lost and versions get updated. And maybe in the end, someone accidentally sent out the wrong version, and so on. All of this can be avoided through self-service, where organization units can have access to their own budgeting tools. For example, I can log in as Administration Services and see the approved budget, and subsequent to that, I will be able to pick the position number when I'm using a requisition, so that the recruitment department can start filling the job for which I got my budget approved for. This is the link between position budgeting, requisition, and recruitment. And we've already seen the link at the employer level where all these position budget worksheets are received. Once they have been approved and position slots have been created, then the administrators in each department or unit will be able to start issuing requisitions against that budget. That is the budgeting process that can be used in Interact. The main thing is the fact that through self-service, all your organization units will be able to submit their position budget worksheets. It will all be centralized for review at the HR department level. And then you can run your reports based on exactly what it is that you require.